Hi everyone. Okay, so this video is a requested video on the fair folk and crystals. Um, First thing I want to say about crystals, as with anything else that is harvested or mined or collected from nature that we use in our practices, you want to find an ethical source. That means that people were treated fairly. That means that the environment was taken into consideration and that the least amount of damage was done to the area. Yeah. So you want to be mindful of where your crystals come from. If you could go out and pick your crystals yourself, sometimes that's possible for some people. Not everyone can do that, but if you can, that's really good. But particularly when working with the fair folk, you want to make sure that any natural item, which includes crystals, that you use when working with the fair folk was taken respectfully, and it would even be a good thing to make offerings to the fair folk if you are using crystals that you have taken from outside your house, from a cave that you have the privilege of visiting, from anywhere. Okay, I have picked up different like quartz crystals. I found an amethyst crystal. I picked up from nature, but really that needs to be done mindfully, and it's good to leave something behind as offering a token of almost, it's not exactly like payment, but it's to bring back balance from what you took. So if you take something, you need to give something back. That might be you water the ground, you just pour out some water on the ground, or that might mean that you leave behind a crystal if you pick up one, or that might mean you plant a seed somewhere, or there are different ways of giving back once you've taken something from an environment. It might even mean, if you feel led, to offer some of your own, like a drop of your own blood, or some of your spit. Spitting on the ground is a kind of offering. So is leaving some of your blood behind. For those who feel comfortable doing that, especially if it's something that is very meaningful to you, to leave something of yourself behind. All right. So crystals. Okay. After you have made sure that your source is an ethical one, there are some crystals, in my opinion, you do not want to work with when you are working with the fair folk. Some that are just not attractive to them, in my experience. All of this is my experience. Some people will say that you can use any kind of crystal because it is a natural item, that it'll be fine, that anything will attract the fair folk. That is not my experience. My experience is that anything with a high content of iron in it, even in its natural form, is a no-go. Is a no. Like, okay, that includes hematite in its tumbled or raw form. That includes both black and rainbow hematite, because it's an actual like iron ore. Tiger's iron too. There was another one, but I can't remember what it was. Even a quartz crystal, or any kind of crystal that has like high inclusion of a high content, like of inclusions of iron. So like really, I don't know if you've seen, a lot of clear quartz crystals do have like hematite dust on them. That's generally okay, but if it's like really red, and it's inside the crystal and it's a really high content of hematite inside the crystal, that is I would discourage using that kind of crystal. Yeah, so stay away from iron, and I would also caution you to stay away from any of the artificial or created crystals. That is generally, unfortunately, there is a crystal called a fairy quartz or a spirit quartz. That is actually, in my experience, not good to use with the fair folk because of its being chemically changed in the lab. Anything that is made in a lab is probably not the best to use specifically with the elemental beings or nature spirits. So the gnomes, the elves, the sylphs, dryads, nymphs, undines, selkies, those of the fair folk who are very intimately connected to a particular element or to a particular environment, a tree, a river, a lake, those kinds of beings. Now, with the fair queens and some of the she that are not so closely tied to a particular element, it might be okay. But in my experience, it's just not good to use an artificially made crystal when working with the fair folk. That's the aura quartz, spirit quartz, fairy quartz, which I believe is the same thing as a spirit quartz. Those are the ones that come to mind. Goldstone, cat's eye, yeah, those. Really, I don't want to tell you what not to do, but if you feel okay about it, it's probably okay. If you have misgivings about it, if you feel cautious about it, don't do it. And of course, if you feel like it's a bad idea, don't do it. Yeah. Particularly with spirits of the fair folk that are very, very connected to a particular element. Yeah. Now, I think that's all the ones that I want to warn about. Nothing else is coming to mind that's really, really bad, really unfortunate or anything. Okay, yeah. So moving on, what you can use are copper-based or high content of copper in any kind of crystal. Most of these are green. Chrysocolla is one. Malachite is another. Those are the two that come to mind right now. Peacock ore is good. Anything that also has lots of rainbows in it, as long as they are like naturally occurring. Rainbow quartz, which is a clear quartz that when you hold it up to the light just has like all kinds of rainbows going on inside of it. Rainbow quartz is really interesting for the fair folk, and it's fun to work with. Fluorite, particularly rainbow fluorite, or really any kind of fluorite, but particularly rainbow fluorite. So green and purple fluorite, to a lesser degree blue fluorite. If you want to work with some of the snow fair folk, like the fairy queen, the snow queen, or any of the snow maidens, the ice maiden, the snow maiden, or Jack Frost, or any of those, you can use clear quartz, or you can use blue fluorite, anything that's a light light blue, light gray blue, clear. Yeah, anything that's kind of like glass will do. And let me think, what else? Crystals can always be given as offerings. Now, you might want to be careful with the bigger crystals and leaving them in an environment where they don't fit in. You'll always want to be mindful of the environment of a place that you are either holding your ritual or where you give your offerings. Yeah, you can make offerings of crystals like crystal chips or small tumbled crystals. It's best if you dig up some ground and bury them like they were seeds. So if you treat them like you're um, planting a plant or planting seeds, um, and dig a hole and cover it over. Once you put the crystal in, cover it over again. What you want to be careful with is not leaving behind something that's really shiny and glittery. If it's really small and an animal might pick it up, and it's just not, it would not be good if an animal picked it up and like tried to eat it or something. Not good. Generally, that's not an issue with natural crystals. Animals generally know not to eat those things. But unfortunately, with some of the artificials, um, especially if they're like really rainbow shiny and sparkly, that gets the attention of a lot of animals, and that could be dangerous. Let me see what else. Okay, rainbows are good unless they're artificially made. Um, Glittery colors like, let me see, sunstone is good. Green aventrine, or any of the aventrines, green, white, to a lesser degree red, blue is good. Any purple or green stone, let me see, purple, green, or pink are really fairy type colors. Sorry, I'm saying so much. Rose quartz, almost any of the quartzes, rose quartz, amethyst. Amethyst is really interesting for the fair folk. They really appreciate it. Not exactly sure why that is. It's probably the purple color being the spiritual color, and amethyst being kind of clear. Chevron amethyst is probably not the best, but a lighter amethyst or even a really dark, like clear purple amethyst would be good. Chevron is not necessarily that attractive to the fair folk if we're comparing different kinds of amethyst. If it's all that you have, that's fine. You can always put crystals on your altar to the fair folk. That's a good way to work with them, to attract them to that space. You can always give offerings of crystals, bury them in the ground like seeds. You can put them in vials and just have them in your altar space. Or you can put them like in a special bowl outside on your porch or in your garden and dedicate that to the fair folk. You can always meditate with them and do like a guided meditation with the fair folk and hold a crystal. Let's see what else. There are basically any way that you can use a crystal would be okay, as long as you aren't doing anything dangerous. Gem elixirs can be good to enhance fairy sight, as long as you are not taking a gem elixir of something that is poisonous to you. Like, unfortunately, most of things that have high copper content, like malachite and chrysocolla, can like melt in water. and you wouldn't want to drink water infused with malachite or anything with high copper content. Um, moonstone. Moonstone is another good one, particularly black or pink moonstone, to a lesser degree peach or really white moonstone. Okay, I said aventrine. Let's see. Bloodstone is good for the darker aspects of the fair folk. If you want to do some work with unseelie or just like a darker aspect of the seelie, like perhaps the dark aspect of the fairy queen, since I've been talking about the fairy queen so much. Yeah. Let me see what else. Can't think of anything else. Pyrite, fool's gold, is good. Gold itself is good. Silver is really good. Copper, just not iron. Just really not iron. And I think that's it. Can't think of anything else. Any of the quartzes are good. Rose quartz is good. Blue quartz is really interesting. I haven't really been able to obtain some really good blue quartz, but it feels like it would really work well, but I can't say for sure since I haven't had the opportunity. I will let you know when that happens. Angelite or selenite can work for some of the Devi, the Devas, or the fair shining people of the She, the fairy queen, some of the gentry of the fair folk, the more godlike or angelic-like fair folk. Not necessarily the elemental beings, but the ones that we might think of as, I call them the gentry, okay? The court, the fairy court. Yeah. I can't think of anything else now. Okay, so I'm going to say goodbye, and all stars shine on your paths, and I'm going to be doing a complete series on the fairy queens very shortly in the future. And I wanted to show you, just before I leave, oops, this is my Kindle. I wanted to show you, I got this book on my Kindle, The Fairy Queens by Sarita Deste and David Rankine. Yeah. And it is about, obviously, the fairy queens. So I'm going to be reading this and some of my other books. I know a lot about the fairy queens of Ireland, but not so much about some of the others, particularly the Greek and Welsh and some of the other fairy queens. So I'm going to be doing some reading, so I'm going to be learning while I'm doing this series. And yeah, that's it. I wanted to show you that. Let me see if I can't show you some of my other new books. Here we go. The Magic of Fairies. I have The Magic of Fairies. Let me show you the cover. The Magic of Fairies by Cassandra Eason, or Essen, or I'm not sure. That's a really fun cover. Sorry. There. Yay. Okay. There's that one. Okay. I have like 4 or 5 new books, but I can't seem to find them all on my Kindle now. That are fair folk related. Okay, so there's The Magic of Fairies by Cassandra Eason. The Fairy Queens I showed you. I've got lots of music on here. Oh, Kiss the Wind. I'm going to show you this one too. I'm really excited about this one. Kiss the Wind by Victoria Hunt, and this is what it looks like. Okay, so I'm going to be doing a lot of reading and learning and sharing with you. If any of you are interested in perhaps a review of one of those books, or want to know a little bit about what content's in those books, let me know. I will talk to you about it. And again, all stars shine on your paths. Bye bye.